Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 725, 725, March the 18th, 2019, Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, a lot to get to today. And of course, today we're actually going to get Dumbass of the Week right. So we really want to have the vote for Dumbass of the Week on this video. So go ahead and put in your votes for Dumbass of the Week in the comment section of this video. And then on Tuesday's video, we'll announce the winner of Dumbass of the Week, and it's going to be a very, very tough choice. This is probably one of the toughest weeks ever for Dumbass of the Week, just because of it's not a lot of the usual suspects. Some of them are there, but there's obviously some new players that have never been involved, a couple of groups that have never been involved, and just a lot of good potential candidates for Dumbass of the Week. It's going to be very difficult to decide. Toward the end of the video, I'll get back to that. Before this video is up. But yes, on the comment section of this video, put your vote for Dumbass of the Week and we'll tally them up. Now, let's get to some of the news that's going on. So on Sunday morning, Doug Collins, representative from Georgia, who's been releasing these testimonies of Strzok and Page and Orr and more to come, he was on with Maria Bartiromo, and yes, he says there are going to be more of these testimonies released. They have about 80 of them, 81. So I don't know if we'll get them all, but it sounds like we're going to get a lot more of these. And he suggested or actually I think it was Maria Bartiromo suggested that maybe James Baker's testimony would be coming out, the full testimony, because he was probably one of the most key witnesses, according to Meadows and Jordan. They learned more from Baker than anyone. So it's likely that James Baker will be the next testimony to be released. And we should learn quite a bit from that. We've already learned a lot from Baker, but we'll get hopefully the full testimony, the full dump on that one. And yes, I'm looking very much forward to that. And people are still coming through. The Strzok and the Lisa Page, particularly Strzok, there's a lot of pages there. So continuing to go through that, and it's just amazing what we're confirming, things that we already knew, new things that we're learning, little tiny tidbits again that help fill in the missing gaps in the timeline. I know my timeline on my timeline blog that I have, man, just in the last couple of weeks, it's just I've really made a lot of entries onto my timeline just from what's been breaking, because we had a kind of a big gap in there and there wasn't much happening for several months, just little bits of things. But just in the past couple of weeks, just many things coming out regarding the dossier and the overall investigation and all that. So if you haven't looked at my timeline recently, it's really starting to it's getting lengthy. Now let's go next to good old Uncle Joe, good old Joe Biden, Joe Bite Me. He's out giving a speech yesterday and he says that he's the most progressive Democrat out there. Can you believe that? He's the most progressive Democrat out there. Now, why would he say something like that? Knowing how far to the left a lot of these people are that are already in the field, from Bernie and everything in between. But they're all pretty much in Bernie territory. When you talk about the New Green Deal, the Green New Deal, Medicare for all, $15 an hour minimum wage, wide open borders, no immigration, cancel ICE. I mean, the whole 9 yards. This is where the whole field is right now. There is nothing even close to a moderate or a centrist Democrat. That's the territory that everybody thought Biden would try to come in and occupy. But here he is coming out and saying that he's the most progressive Democrat. Well, that tells us a lot. As I've been telling you the last week or so, I think that Biden, the reason he's not jumped in yet is because he hasn't decided exactly how to run. And, everyone's probably saying, hey, you can go out there and run as a centrist. There isn't a centrist in the race yet. They're all far to the left. You need to go in there and occupy that territory. But he's probably getting experts telling him, hey, man, the energy in the party right now is on the far left. If you come out as anything close to the center, you're going to get massacred. They're going to destroy you. You have to come out and run as a lefty. You have no choice to come out and run as a lefty. And I think that's exactly what this statement tells us that Biden made, that he's the most progressive Democrat. Now, the problem with that is that, first of all, I don't think many people will believe it, and the fact that he's a 71 or 72-year-old white male, with all that white male privilege, part of the political class. He's been in Washington his whole life. He's exactly what so many of the far left don't like. That's what he represents. So he's got to come out and try to convince them he's not that. and maybe he thinks he can just come out there and start spouting off all this progressivism like a Bernie Sanders or a Kamala Harris or something like that. But the problem is he has got a very lengthy voting record. A very lengthy voting record. Why don't we cover a few things in Joe's voting record? He's going to try to sell himself off as a progressive. But he voted in 1999 to ban partial birth abortions. He is opposed to federal money being used to pay for abortions. So the Democratic Party today is in favor of post-birth abortions. Post-birth abortions. And he voted to ban partial birth abortions. See, this is the problem. What he thinks is progressive, he obviously hasn't been paying attention to where his party is these days. If you're talking about identifying yourself as a progressive, Joe's gonna get hammered on the abortion issue. Guarantee it. Biden supports capital punishment, or at least he did the last time we checked. How do you think that's going to go over with the far left? He voted for the Violent Crime Control Act, which put more cops, built more prisons, and increased prison sentences. And many people say it unfairly targeted blacks and minorities. How's he going to explain that? He voted for a drug czar. He's considered to be a moderate on gun control. How's that going to work out? He supported the Patriot Act. He supported the Iraq War. He voted for the Secure Fence Act. He voted for the Secure Fence Act. How's that going to work out with the crowd we have now that wants totally open borders in sanctuary cities? I don't think he's going to fly on that issue. He supported comprehensive immigration reform. Uh-oh, that's a problem. He voted in favor of the Defense of Marriage Act. Oh, that's right, he voted in favor of the Defense of Marriage Act, as did the rotten Reverend Clinton. And I believe, initially, Barack Hussein Obama. Now, the other two have flipped on that, so he probably has too. But at one time, he did vote for it. He voted for NAFTA. Oh boy, that's a problem. And he actually said that NATO got it right in Libya. Of course, he was Obama's vice president then, so he had to come out and support what they were doing in Libya. Well, today they have open slave trading, and the place is a total terrorist state. It's one of the most dangerous places in the world, Libya. And he says that NATO got it right in Libya. I don't think so. Biden describes himself as a Zionist, proudly, and says that you don't have to be a Jew to be a good Zionist. Joe Biden describes himself as a Zionist. I'm pretty sure that's not going to fly. He supports Israel and says he is Israel's best friend. Uh-oh, that could be the deal killer right now. The Democratic Party is not really very fond of the policies of the government of Israel right now, particularly with the Palestinian conflict. But just in general, there seems to be kind of an anti-Semitic stripe running through the Democratic Party, especially with a lot of the freshmen and a lot of these people who are the energy of the party right now. Uncle Joe is not going to go over very well with the folks, not with the SJWs, when he comes out saying he's Israel's best friend and that he describes himself proudly as a Zionist. He supports open dialogue with North Korea, but says they are a paper tiger. Uh-oh, that's probably not going to go over very well right about now. He voted in 2008 for a more constructive relationship with Russia. Uh-oh. Do you think that might be a signal that he's planning on colluding with the Russians? I mean, he says that we need a far more constructive relationship with Russia. That was just 2008. That could be a problem. He does not support Medicare for all. That's probably the deal killer right there. If none of these others right here kill him, that one is the one that will take him out. Does not support Medicare for all. That seems to be the one issue on the Democratic side, and regardless of which spectrum you go through on the Democratic field, that seems to be almost like the litmus test for whether or not you're far enough to the left. You've got to be a supporter of Medicare for all. If you're not, No, it ain't happening, brother. So he may come out and say that he is the most progressive candidate, but I don't know what he's looking at in the Democratic Party, because if these issues and the way he has voted in the past, positions he's taken in the past, are the positions he's going to go out on now, those are definitely nowhere near the type of progressive policies that the SJWs and the far left want to see right now. And if he tries to come out and say and flip the script and try to move far to the left and take the new positions, how's he going to explain all of these votes and all of these comments? You see, it's not as easy as it looks, is it, Uncle Joe? Good luck. You're going to need it. Well, it looks like Judge Jeanine's show got pulled. Typically, I'll watch a little bit of that. Not so much, like the first part of the show. I like to watch maybe like the second half where she has guests on, because sometimes she'll have John Solomon or someone like that, and that's what I watch. But last night, Saturday night, Judge Jeanine's show did not air. They pulled it, and it looks like they're going to pull next Saturday as well. Apparently, it's because of her previous monologue that she made on a previous show, where she targeted Ilhan Omar and the Democrats for having this sort of anti-Semitic slurs going on. And so the only question now is Judge Jeanine done for good? Is she done at Fox? I'm sure she has a long contract, or a decent contract. They still got to pay her, so I don't know how that's going to work out. But she's pretty damn popular. And so we'll have to find out if Judge Jeanine is coming back or not. But she was certainly pulled off the air Saturday night, and it looks like they've got her show pulled for next week as well. And that's usually not a good sign. Maybe she'll be coming back, but maybe not. Maybe not. She may be done. And Fox will face some backlash for that if they do. From various sources. Well, here we go. We have Meghan McCain. Of course, we talked yesterday about the comment that President Trump sent out regarding the activities of Senator Magoo and how he was involved in the coup and the whole 9 yards. And, of course, bringing up the fact that he saddled us all with Obamacare probably for the rest of our lives and all that sort of thing. But Meghan Magoo, has shot back at Trump saying, the classic old line. She says, well, her father is living rent-free in Trump's head. Well, that's kind of cute. It's been used many times before. I don't really think so. I don't think that Magoo's living in Trump's head. He was commenting on something he saw on Fox, and of course we just had the revelations. He hasn't talked about Magoo at all, really, since his death. But when this Kramer stuff came out, and we learned how much of Kramer was involved, and of course he worked for John McCain. I mean, I'm pretty sure Kramer didn't do anything without Senator Magoo giving him the thumbs up or the actual order to do it. In fact, he even said on a couple of things that McCain had instructed him to do that. He had instructed him to see this Miss Wallander and give her the dossier to make sure that Newland was taking it seriously, to give it to so-and-so, to pass it to so-and-so, talking to the media. Magoo was aware of all that, and in some case actually was directing it, and we know that from Kramer's testimony. But the bottom line is, and the problem that Meghan Magoo has here is that her father, Senator Magoo, was a key player in a coup. It was his boy, Kramer, that gave the dossier to BuzzFeed, who published it, causing all the carnage. And keep in mind, something that some people overlook, Trump was the Republican nominee for president. I mean, Magoo didn't do this to the opposing candidate, the Democrat. He did it to his own party. He was trying to deliver the rotten Reverend Clinton. By going after Trump and trying to take down Trump, he was de facto giving us the rotten Reverend Clinton. And quite honestly, as many of you know, I've gone through Magoo. Many of you know a lot about Magoo as well. And when you look at his record as a senator and how he has been with many Republicans within the Republican Party, and I never really considered him much of a Republican. I'm not really a Republican myself. I'm more of a libertarian. But the fact of the matter is, it's not the first time, and that's why he always called himself a maverick. He wasn't a maverick. He was just an asshole. Just an asshole. That's really all it is. And I cannot find any redeeming qualities for Senator Magoo. None. And I'm finding it hard to find any positive qualities about Megan Magoo. And I realize it's hard when it's your father. Yeah, I understand that. So, I do expect her to some degree to come out and defend her father. But she has no business jumping all over Trump. Trump has every right to talk about and say exactly what did happen. He's pointing out what happened. Senator Magoo was involved in a coup against him. That's the truth. That's the facts. That's indefensible. Megan Magoo, indefensible. Absolutely indefensible. So I understand why she'd want to defend her father. That's a natural thing. But she certainly can't go after Trump. What if it was her father and someone had put together a dossier against him to destroy him? It's kind of like what they did with the Swift boat ads. She wasn't very happy when they ran the Swift boat ads against her father. Well, this is even worse. What her father did to Trump was 10 times worse. So, not only do I not find any redeeming qualities for Senator Magoo, I can't really find any redeeming qualities for his offspring, Megan Magoo. Nothing. With the exception of maybe the fact that she doesn't seem to sweat very much for a fat girl. But other than that, I can't find much. Now, let's get to Trump's tweets from, I believe these tweets were Saturday tweets, I think is when these tweets came out. And I looked at them first. I thought, man, there's a lot going on with that. And then I read through them again on Sunday. And I just was thinking about, man, look at what he's tweeting out here. And it dawned on me that he in these tweets, he's not really tweeting out to you or me or the media or anyone else. Because everything he's tweeting is all things he's been tweeting for a couple of years now, at least a year and a half, about Spygate and the wiretapping and the FISAs and the dossier. We've all heard all this stuff before. And he's never backed off of it. He still continues on, and he does that for a reason. And so I'm thinking that this is nothing new to all of us. We know all this. We have known all this for a very long time. But he gets into this, it's a 4-part tweet that I'm about to read to you. And I want you to pay attention very carefully to the words, because he's paying very careful attention to the words. And remember, the first time I read it, I just thought, as I usually thought, okay, well, he's tweeting out to all of us and all of his Twitter followers and everybody like that. But I read this thing again a couple of times on Sunday, and that's why I wrote it all down. Because I actually think he's tweeting to someone else, and I think the person he's tweeting to is Barr, Attorney General Barr. So I'm going to read these tweets and pay careful attention to exactly the words that he uses and how he puts this tweet together, what he's actually getting to, and why I think he's directing this to Barr. So he says, here's the tweet, and it took 4 tweets to get all this in. So he says, new evidence that the Obama-era team of the FBI, DOJ, and CIA were working together to spy on and take out President Trump, all the way back to 2015. A transcript of Peter Strzok's testimony is devastating. Hopefully, the Mueller report will be covering this. So, if there was knowingly and acknowledged to be a zero crime when the special counsel was appointed, it was made based on the fake dossier paid for by crooked Hillary and now disgraced Andrew McCabe, he and all stated no crime, then the special counsel should never have been appointed and there should be no Mueller report. This was illegal and conflicted investigation in search of a crime. Russian collusion was nothing more than an excuse by the Democrats for losing an election that they thought they were going to win. This should never happen to another president again. He's talking to William Barr. What is particularly important about this entire tweet is where he says there should never have been a special counsel appointed and there should be no Mueller report. This was an illegal and conflicted investigation in search of a crime. So he's basically saying what we've known for a very long time, that the dossier was fraud. It was a hoax. It was a smear campaign, opposition research paid for by the right Reverend Clinton. It should never have been used to do all the things that it was used for. To get FISA warrants, to do all the other things, launch multiple investigations, destroy people's lives. This whole thing based on a fraud. That's what he's saying. And it is true. Now we all know that. He's talking to William Barr. Because it's now William Barr's job to figure out what to do about it. More importantly, he says that there should be no Mueller report because the entire thing was based on a fraud. There is where the problem comes in, and that's where William Barr is definitely going to be conflicted, because Trump's right. Remember, the Mueller investigation was Operation Crossfire Hurricane. Now, Operation Crossfire Hurricane was a counterintelligence operation that never should have been started because there was no predicate crime or even any reasonable suspicion that there was anything going on other than the dossier, which we know is a fraud. But then when they appointed the special counsel, the Operation Crossfire, which was a counterintelligence operation, morphed itself into a criminal investigation when Mueller got it. But it was still the same thing. It was Operation Crossfire, simply morphed into a criminal investigation instead of counterintelligence. Now, therefore, Trump is absolutely correct in the fact that there should be no Mueller report because the entire thing was based on a fraud. And we know there's nothing there anyway. But it goes one step deeper, and that is this, that is going to be very, very difficult for Barr to deal with, because he's already said he's a friend of Mueller's. Their wives go to Bible study together, remember? He's known Mueller for a long time. But here's the obvious point. Two things, really. The first thing is what Trump alludes to earlier, where he suggests that all the things that have been uncovered about the dossier and Strzok and Page and McCabe and all these people, he's suggesting that when we get the Mueller report, he's sure that Mueller is going to tell us all about this stuff. But we all know that's a joke. Trump's just being coy. He knows for a fact that Uncle Bob's not going to say anything in the report about the dossier being a fraud, Peter been stroking us, Loose Lisa Page, the frame-up, or any of that. None of that is going to be there, and that's a problem. That is a problem, because it should be there. Because if Uncle Bob was doing this investigation, he should have stumbled on to every bit of this stuff. And it should be in his report that they based this entire investigation on a fraud, on a fraudulent dossier that can't be proven, verified, or anything else, and it is a known hoax. So what Trump's saying is, if Uncle Bob really did the investigation, he should have found all this out, and therefore we should be seeing that in the Mueller report. Of course, we know that that's not going to be in there, and that is a message to Barr. That's a message to Barr, which is, okay, when you get Uncle Bob's report, it better show all the things that I just pointed out about the counter-intel operation and the attempt to run the frame-up operation and to take me out in a coup. It better be in there, right? But he's also saying that that puts Barr in a real tough position. He's also pointing out the fact that because it was a fraudulent investigation, that it never should have happened, and therefore there should not be a report. So what he's essentially putting Barr in this really strange position, a very difficult position, because if in fact, as Trump is tweeting out and saying, Uncle Bob got into this thing, took over this operation based on the dossier, he goes in, you have to assume the first thing he's going to do is look into the dossier, verify or try to verify the facts in the dossier, try to confirm the facts, try to dig into this thing and find out what's going on. But what should have happened is that once Uncle Bob got several weeks or maybe a couple months into his investigation, he should have realized it was all a fraud. At which point he should have come forward to the AG, which would have been Sessions at that time. And he should have said, hey, or Rodenstein, and he should have said, hey, we've been working on this investigation now for a couple weeks or a couple months, and we went right to work on looking at this Russia collusion thing, and we went through this entire dossier. There ain't a damn bit of that stuff's true. It's all a bunch of fraud. It's a hoax. It was a political opposition research document, just like we knew it was, but we thought there may be some truth to it, but as it turns out, there is none. It's just a bunch of crap. There's nothing there. And since my investigation is largely based on that, Mr. Attorney General, I think I have to fold this thing up. I don't have to fold it up. You know, there's nothing here. It's all fraud. That's what I've learned. After a couple weeks or a couple months into my investigation, I'm very sorry, but I think that this special counsel investigation's over. This entire thing's a hoax. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off on it. I'm going to give you my final report, and you can explain it to the folks. And they're probably not going to be very happy about it. But that's the truth. That's what I found. But that's not what Uncle Bob did. Uncle Bob continued on and on and on and on. Despite the fact he had to have learned a long time ago this entire thing was a fraud. So now he's got a problem. If he produces a report that seems to go off the fact that the dossier was true, or that his investigation working from the dossier went as normal, and he's going to tell us all these things he's found about the Russians and so on, he's in trouble. He's in trouble because we know now the dossier was a fraud, and it's going to only get more and more and more information. 6 months from now, this whole thing will be done. As far as by that point, we will pretty much know everything. We got about, Nunes says we got 2/3 of it. In another 6 months, we'll have the rest. And there's no doubt that it's going to be proven that the dossier was just a piece of opposition research. It was a slander campaign, a smear campaign that somehow found its way into the FBI. That's what Mueller should have been looking into. That's what he should have been finding. It should be Comey going to jail. It should be McCabe going to jail. It should be Strzok going to jail. Page going to jail. But none of that has happened. And Uncle Bob has not indicted any of those people. At some point, he is going to have to explain why. And that's why releasing the Mueller report could be very, very problematic for William Barr. If he wants to protect his friend, Mueller, then he's going to have to make sure he doesn't produce that report. Because this is not going to say anything about the dossier being a fraud and all these people being involved in a coup. It's not going to do that. So now he's in a tough position. He can't really release the Mueller report because it's going to show that Uncle Bob completely did a fraudulent investigation. That's what it's going to show. And Uncle Bob's in a lot of trouble. Because the fact of the matter is, he had to have discovered at some point in his investigation that this entire thing was a hoax. But he didn't come out and do the honest thing and the right thing and say, hey, I've discovered this entire thing's a hoax, man. This investigation's over. No. He persisted. He persisted as if it were all true. And he has not indicted any of the real perps. All the guilty people are still walking free. And he targeted just a few people that he could get something on. And it was mostly people doing things that had nothing to do with Trump-Russia collusion, even though that was the entire point of the exercise. So now William Barr has got a real problem. How's this all going to wash itself out? If Barr releases the report or even writes a summary of the report, and it doesn't show where Uncle Bob discovered all this that we're finding out now, that the dossier is a fraud and all these things were done illegally and it was a frame-up operation, because that's what we're going to learn. Uncle Bob would have had to have learned every bit of that. Yet he didn't bring it to our attention. He didn't shut down the investigation. He kept it going. He kept pushing, and he never indicted any of the real perps, even though he has to know that happened. That makes Uncle Bob, complicit. That makes him an accessory to the crime. He was part of the cover-up of the crime, and he actually continued with the crime. He was going to try to take Trump down. The coup continued under Uncle Bob. The coup was transferred from McCabe and Strzok and Page and Comey over to Uncle Bob, and he continued the attempted coup. What's AG Barr going to do? Because Trump is telling him in these tweets, hey buddy, I'm watching. Here's what happened. Trump's telling him what happened, and he doesn't need to. Barr knows what happened. So now what's he going to do? Trump's telling him, this report comes out, it better lay out all the crimes that I just laid out here, the attempted coup against me, it better be there. And if it doesn't, that's a problem. And it's not. But if Uncle Bob comes out and says it now, how's he going to explain the fact that he continued this witch hunt for nearly over a year and a half when he knew the entire thing was a fraud? You see the problems that AG Barr has? If he tries to come clean and do the right thing, he's going to have to take a lot of his friends Comey and Rodenstein and Uncle Bob are all going to be in leg chains. You cannot not indict these individuals. You cannot. They were involved in a coup. And Uncle Bob is now in it as well. He had the opportunity early on to say, hey man, I've discovered that this dossier is bullshit. And most of my investigation is based on it. This stuff's crap. There ain't nothing here. Here you go, Attorney General Rosenstein. Here's my report. I'm shutting it down. You can explain it to the folks, and it's going to be ugly. But I'm getting the hell out of town. But that's not what he did. And now Uncle Barr, now AG Barr, has inherited this deal. And he's going to have to sort it out. He can't make it go away. It's too big of a story. Trump ain't letting go of it. I'm not letting go of it. You're not letting go of it. It's too big of a story now. Too many people are on the story, and we know what happened. Trump was tweeting to Barr, letting him know that he better come up with a solution. And I see no other solution for the problem here for Barr. He has no choice. He can't just like push this thing out of the way or hope it goes away. It's not going away. It's not going away. It's only going to get worse because more and more facts are going to come out to support what we know is now the truth. That the entire thing was a hoax. It was used to try to take out Trump, to destroy him so he couldn't become president. And when that failed, it was then used to take him out in a coup. And Uncle Bob has been pursuing it as part of that now for over a year and a half. And that's the facts. And Trump knows it, and he just told AG Barr that he knows it. So does everybody else. This is a very, very tricky situation for William Barr. I don't see he has two choices. He either sends his friends to jail for the crimes that they committed, or he puts himself at risk of being part of a cover-up. You wouldn't want to be William Barr right now. Alrighty, so one last thing, Dumbass of the Week, as I was saying, is going to be a very, very difficult choice. You know, in fact, it's so tough, I actually had to write down myself this week some of the various players just so I would be able to even, you know, come to my own conclusion who I think the Dumbass of the Week should be, because we had so many different things happen this week. You know, we had, of course, we get the usual Ocasio-Cortez, where she says, if you don't have a job, then you are left to die. Of course, that was pretty stupid. Of course, she blamed the Keystone XL pipeline for leaking 5,000 barrels of oil when the Keystone XL has not even been built yet. We had Cher saying all men should be circumcised. We have this crazy nut, Darshan Kendrick, who wants to regulate men's balls. We have this college admissions scandal, which there's a bunch of different things going on with that. We have this, of course, also this Lori Loughlin, you know, with her daughter or whoever, her niece, I guess is Olivia Jade, who she gets the message about all this going down when she's on a yacht with the guy who's with the board of trustees from USC when the scandal broke. We, of course, have Christopher Steele saying that he used the story, the CNN story off of iReport to make his case for Mr. Gubarev. I mean, that's got to be in the top 1, 2, or 3 Dumbass of the Week. I mean, how bad is it, man? Christopher Steele using Google and a now defunct website to pass off as some sort of secret intelligence. Unbelievable. So, yeah, there's just so many candidates for Dumbass of the Week. It's going to be very, very difficult. I'm torn right now. I don't know. I would certainly put Christopher Steele, in my own personal opinion. I'd put him pretty high up at the top of this myself. But of course, this college admissions scam, there's a lot going on with that. Boy, it's going to be tough. Anyway, go ahead and put your vote for Dumbass of the Week. You can put first, second, third choice, whatever. First place, second place, third place, whatever. I'll check the comments section and we'll come up with a winner and we'll announce it on Tuesday's video. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See ya. Bye.